Hello there, Crispy's Tavern. I am a DM for a text-based Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I have 4 players with cool backstories like a literal god, Divine Celestial Sorlock, who is his own patron, a cleric of that god, a Warforged blacksmith, and a maid with the Battle Maid subclass. Oh, okay, so we have God, a priest of said god, a dude who makes weapons, and a lady who dusts. Power scaling, baby. Well, the text-based campaign went well. We had session 0 and our session 1, and I assumed that I knew what my players wanted. 2 quests pointed at the same thing. Kill some wolves. There were tons of them. Except they just didn't want to. The god doesn't want to kill at all. The maid doesn't want to kill poor little wolves. The Warforged blacksmith doesn't want to end innocent lives. And the cleric has to study for a test and just isn't there. Okay. Here's Crispy's guide to getting your players into the fight. Step 1, try to kill them.
Hey bro, why don't you hand over all your money?
Are you kidding me?
Look, I really don't want to fight, and trust me, you really don't want to either. Oh, feeling confident today. Alright, no. This isn't overconfident. This isn't me being cocky. Okay, the universe literally revolves around me. I am the main character. I do not want to fight you, and you don't want to fight me either. So can we just walk in opposite directions? I don't want to do this to you, man. Well, if you're just gonna sit there, I might as well take the first hit.
Optional step 2 is to make the fight super difficult to force your players to get good or die to their skill issue. But, not everyone likes that part. So I made more quests since then. I spent quite some time making wolf stat blocks based on werewolves online, and still, they just didn't want to fight these things. Luckily, the blacksmith read up about crafting +1 weapons, and it requires parts of magical creatures. And the wolves, well, they are pretty magical. After they finish the side quests I made, they will hopefully fight those darn wolves. I get to use the 5 different homebrewed wolf stat sheets that I worked on. It might come as a shock, but for a lot of groups, they have some trouble utilizing their vast talents for violence. However, the promise of loot is, well, it's usually very compelling. Trust me, I play Destiny. It's basically an addiction. Hi, I've been a fan of your videos for a while, and they always remind me of how lucky I am to have my current tabletop role-playing game group. I thought I'd share the story of how my old groups fell apart. Most of the game and the details of those events I don't remember clearly, so I asked my roommate for more details, but it seems both of us have kind of blacked out. These are the events I remember more might have contributed to everything that happened. The game was Call of Cthulhu, aka Cock. And this was the second TTRPG played under this Dungeon Master. Most of the group was from the first game I played with this Dungeon Master, Dungeons & Dragons, but there were 2 new players. The cast was myself, playing a college student whose sister went missing a couple of years ago. We had the Dungeon Master. We had Britt, a player from the last game who was playing a British guy, even though it kind of made 0 sense for the setting. Roommate was an old player who was playing a sorority girl. eMpATH was the new player. They were playing my character's sibling-in-law. There was a detective, the other new player. He was playing a girl tied to a detective and a childhood friend to my character. The host. In-person sessions were hosted at their house. They switched characters soon after the start, but they were originally playing my character's crappy ex, and oh my god, you guys are all tied to one person. Look, I am all for tying characters together, but when you all tie to one dude, that's a lot of pressure, I'm just saying. We were told to create a group of college students to go on a backpacking trip in a mountain range near us in real life. We were trying to figure out how our characters would be connected to go on this trip together. My roommate's character would be doing this hike for extra credit for whatever reason. Since my roommate's character was a popular sorority girl, most people were able to tie it into their backstory. I think British had a harder time because he wanted to be like a British gang member? You mean at the school? Or the Peaky Blinders are here for that extra credit report. I'm never doing that again. Oh god. My DM just had him studying abroad to make him fit into the story. I offered the new players ways to tie into my story, and they both accepted, so their characters were close to mine. Things were fine for the first session or two. Our characters meet up and begin their hike. During the hike, there were shenanigans where we were lured out into the woods and basically phase into an alternate reality full of gooey monsters taking the forms of woodland animals. Unfortunately, the game ended long before we could figure out what that was all about. eMpATH, Detective, and the British guy were butting heads long before the actual, thing happened. It wasn't as noticeable when we were on Discord, especially since we didn't have cameras on. It felt all very in character for the stress of the situation. Since my character was close with eMpATH and Detective, they would try to mediate the fights and hold the group together. In person, though, this was a very different story. We were at host's house. Now, I remember very little of the session. Now, we didn't do much in-game, as most of the session was role-playing arguments. British, Detective, and eMpATH all yelling at each other in character, and my character coming up with a talking stick, which was a real-world object I was passing around. Talking stick was quickly discarded. Yeah, bro, that shit never works.
Our 100-year feud is about to come to an end. You and your family will be relegated to the archives of history. You sure about that? You killed my brother, and now you're gonna pay for it. Wait! You two, have you ever thought that perhaps we should solve this conflict without violence? This is the talking stick. With the talking stick in hand, we can solve this conflict without hurting each other. What do you say? No.
My character continued to try and mediate the conflict, and at some point it just stopped being in character, man. The argument became a real thing out of character, and once I realized, I tried removing myself from the argument, but they just kept on trying to drag me back into it. Next session was equally full of fighting. This time, it was between the Dungeon Master and the Detective. Hosts realized they didn't feel comfortable or able to play a crappy X character and decided to make a new one. Dungeon Master created a situation to guarantee Host's character's death to facilitate this. Since this was an in-game interaction of a monster focusing on Host's character, everyone had their character react to this appropriately. We were told before that Host's character was going to die. Detective shot a bunch at the monster, which did not die, and the monster ended up killing Host's character, as intended. Detective was upset about this, saying he wasted all the ammo and the monster should have died. Well, skill issue, bro. You never use all your resources in the cutscene fight. Come on, they're always obvious. The DM told him this was a locked meta event, as Host no longer felt comfortable playing that character. Session ended early, as this back and forth arguing did not stop. I don't remember the following session, but this is what killed the game. I had made it a habit to not stick around after session to chat, due to all the butting heads and arguing that was happening. I left early like usual and got to hear about this later from Detective, Roommate, and Dungeon Master. For whatever reason, eMpATH was talking about their spiritual beliefs and how they believed they could see other people's spiritual self and could know how they were feeling through that. As I was not there, I do not know how the conversation evolved this way, but at some point, eMpATH started talking about people with disabilities. I believe specifically intellectual disabilities. They claimed that real people were stuck in the bodies of disabled people and were in suffering. They were trapped in their own mind. eMpATH said they were the only person capable of helping the real person out of their disabled self. And oh my god, who are you, RFK Jr.? And they could eventually cure this person. They said that no one, not even the families of the disabled person, were capable of properly helping or taking care of them. And oh my god, you really are RFK Jr. These comments were bad on their own, but Detective also has a little sister with this type of disability. I believe Dungeon Master tried defending eMpATH, and that was kind of just the beginning of the end. Detective made a new game and invited me, roommate, and host. While the game was enjoyable, he made it entirely with the intent of blowing up the DM's game to get back at them and eMpATH. I think Call of Cthulhu lasted only like a session or two more before DM threw in the towel. The whole friend group fell apart after. The only person I still talk to is roommate. We still talked to Detective for a while, but he was also just not a great character, not TTRPG related, so we'll just leave that out. That was honestly my nightmarish TTRPG scenario, and it just was pretty devastating as a consequence. I was friends with most of this group prior to this, but now I'm playing a World of Darkness game, and it's pretty fun, as well as Mutants and Masterminds with a partner and a roommate. I'd love to try Call of Cthulhu again at some point, just with a different group. Semi-related bonus, we would play Minecraft with the game sometimes. Right before the eMpATH thing, we stopped because DM had a whole screaming fit because I built an automatic farm with a villager. They were upset because I was supporting slavery by doing that. You know what? They are so real for that. Villagers are beautiful, incredible, amazing creatures, and they deserve better than to be shoved into your cloning farms. Get behind me, Dr. Treoris, I'll protect you. Yeah. Anyway, I offered to dismantle it, and they said it was awful that I even did it in the first place. Yeah, these people sound obnoxious. I know some people are gonna get mad at me for saying this, but the truth is, if you meet someone online and only know them through the framework of meeting on Discord every now and then, you don't really know that person all that well. I've known my D&D group for years, and yes, we play online, but we've known each other for years in real life. And even still, there's plenty of things about my D&D group that still surprise me. If you meet someone online and know them through Discord or Instagram exclusively, you don't know that whole person. And therefore, there are plenty of things that could surprise you, both good things as well as really bad things. Clearly, eMpATH was some kind of cult leader in their mentality, and that is just not healthy. And while I don't think the reveal of your Discord friends' true natures are going to be that bad, non-0% chance it could happen. So just get ready for that. I'm really sick of having to subscribe to like 5 different services for everything I need in my D&D game. Why can't they just be in one package? Thank God for CZEPEKU. This week's videos are sponsored by CZEPEKU. If you guys are fans of the channel, you know about CZEPEKU. They are the best map makers in the TTRPG space, bar none. And they've expanded over the years, now making animated wallpapers as well as a huge library of tokens for your Dungeons & Dragons games. But they've got something new for you, the CZEPEKU Complete Fantasy Bundle. No longer do you need to subscribe to a bunch of different services. It's all in one place. 6,000 high-res battle maps, 2,000 hand-drawn scenes, and 300 plus tokens for your NPCs and heroes, all updated every week. Guys, I have been a loyal CZEPEKU customer for years, way before they sponsored me. I haven't regretted a penny spent, and neither will you. That's a promise. If you guys are interested, you can head down into the description down below or to the pinned comment where you can pick up the CZEPEKU Fantasy Bundle. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much to CZEPEKU for sponsoring today's episode. Without further ado, I'm going to turn back to an animated rat so we can get back to the video. Before I begin, it should be known that I am not a native English speaker and am affected by moderate dyslexia with a touch of autism. My spell checker will be doing the majority of the work here. I started out with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition about a year ago. Starting out as a player, the campaign was decent enough, though it ended about 11 months just because the spark was gone. Tragic. The DM kept the game going after the big bad was defeated because at the time we enjoyed it so much. During this, I started watching a bunch of D&D content, from guides, horror stories, summaries, builds. My first actual play I watched was Shadow over Kerkonos. In that case, I'm really sorry. Somewhere at the later stages of the campaign, I wanted to try out the seat of Dungeon Master. I invited 3 people who I knew somewhat. I had the players create their characters and work them into one shot. It was fun to see them run through the small dungeon I crafted for them. They also deeply enjoyed it, one of them even saying, "It was really good for your first attempt." I definitely wanted to try again. I took the leap and purchased a full set of 2024 books, purchased a license for Foundry, and started messing around. That's a lot of money, oh my god. I mean, I did just spend like a few $100s on a Lego set, so... Okay, yeah, I need to shut up. Here comes the horror bit. I wanted to tempt the players into making a character within Foundry, but not forcing them to do it. So I wanted to give some content that wasn't available on D&D Beyond. Eventually, I got to a sale from Grimm Press. I splurged on 30 adventures worth of content and took multiple packs of 500 tokens from them. I ended up spending about 278 euros. Okay, you've officially exceeded my Lego budget. When I finally got the content and tokens, I started showing them off a bit, until one of my players spoke up. Hey, those tokens look off. I responded with mild confusion. How come? He asked to get a closer look, so I zoomed in. He was silent for a moment, then... They look like AI. My heart sunk. I loathe generative AI, and I just paid a company a lot of money for... AI images. I looked up their Kickstarter for the tokens, and yup, I hadn't scrolled all the way down. They were made with Midjourney. It sucked. I did pay for them. So now I just use them for NPC placeholders until real images found that fits better. Look, if you want to use AI art, I can't stop you, but for the love of God, it is usually quite ugly, and it's definitely not something you should be paying out of pocket for, especially that much money. Like, the point of it is to do things inexpensively, and if you're gonna pay 300 euro at that point, call an artist. I do recommend, in general, when you're looking at stuff to buy online, you buy in small doses first. Don't just order in bulk right away. I love supporting companies in this industry, but while I like people, I don't trust them very much. This might be a little short compared to most stories you cover, but I hope this is an interesting story either way. My brother in Christ, this is the longest one in the video. I started playing in a local group at my game store around 2 years ago. It was my first time ever dipping my toes into the world of Dungeons & Dragons. I was beyond excited. It was a rather large group, around 6 to 7 players, and the Dungeon Master. I was around 18, going on 19 at the time, and was the second youngest at the table, the youngest having just turned 18. A majority of the players are in their late 30s and have been playing for years, so it was great to be surrounded by people who were super experienced. For consistency, I'll only refer to about 4 people who are actually important to the story. Myself, I was playing a Shadar Kai druid, who was rather edgy, I must admit, but he was my first character. The Dungeon Master, who is an amazing guy and helped me throughout this entire event. Paladin, who stood up for me a lot during this, great guy who I'm still friends with to this day, and Problem Player. I'll be honest, I genuinely can't remember who his character was due to having severe memory issues for a myriad of other reasons, and only knowing him for a small time. I will say again, this guy was around 35, and again, I was barely 19 years old.
I don't like where this is going.
The first few sessions weren't anything noteworthy exactly, for this story at least. We had a typical prison break from a goblin king who had sentenced us to death for stealing from him, and everything was going pretty well, aside from being sentenced to death. What are you talking about? I started feeling more confident in my roleplay abilities and chatting up with the other members, which seemingly caught the eye of Problem Player. He messaged me a few times outside the game after almost every session, saying how amazing I was at doing voices for my character, how charismatic I was. I thought it was a tad strange at first, but thought, hey, maybe he was just a genuinely nice person, and just a little awkward at portraying it. Oh, how wrong I was.
Stop! Stop!
After we got a little closer, he began to, well, vent, unprompted. A majority of the time talking about how terrible the women in his life were. I thought, well, okay, I don't know why you're telling me this, but if you need to get it off your chest, you can. I think he took that the wrong way.
Hey man, you mind if I talk to you? I've got some stuff I gotta get off my chest.
Oh, sure, what's up, man?
Oh, thanks. It's about my wife.
Wait, it's about who?
Yeah, my wife is the absolute worst. Like, women these days are so demanding. Like, she wants me to take a shower and, like, clean up all my beer cans that I leave everywhere and not piss in a water bottle. Like, seriously, why do I have to go to the bathroom in a toilet? Like, it's so much work for me to get up and walk all the way to the bathroom. Like, she's just so nasty.
He began venting through his character in-game to me, adding his personal problems to his character for him to talk about. Again. Look, I'm about 16 years younger than this guy. The dungeon master quickly knows how uncomfortable I would get and tried to steer the conversation away from his character whenever he began his pity party, which did work at first, but then Problem Player got a little attached. Outside of the venting, he started getting a little weird. He even pulled the, "Wow, you're so mature for your age, bro." The red flags are crimson. They're bleeding. He actually said this a few times. I'd give him advice about his venting issues too. I discussed this with Paladin, who was about the same age, if not a little older, and immediately he caught on to what Problem Player might be doing. A few more sessions happen. Nothing noteworthy or interesting goes on other than the occasional flirt between his character and mine. I never reciprocated to Problem Player, of course, but he would always make an innuendo or flirty joke towards me, 35-year-old man. Just a reminder, 35-year-old man. 35-year-old man! Which Paladin was not having it. It was clear there was a tension between the two every time Problem Player talked to me. For context, in-game, my character and Paladin had a very found sibling relationship bond. It got to a point where Problem Player's character tried to imply that my character should rest in his bedroll one night, to which I politely declined, and Paladin went nuts on him. Paladin asked, "Why would he sleep with your character anyway? They don't have much of a close bond." I wasn't implying that. Why is that where your mind goes to? Because you've been flirting with this kid for the past few sessions, and you can clearly tell he's not into it. You don't know that, and it's all just for fun anyway. It's not that serious. And oh my god, yeah, Paladin.
Win no crumbs.
At that point, the DM finally chose to step in and tell the both of us to shut up, and if they have personal beef, take it outside. Bro, are you beating an enlightened centrist with a freaking kiddler diddler? What are we doing? Anyway, the DM told them both to shut up, and if they have personal beef, take it outside. But it seriously seemed like Paladin was ready to jump the Problem Player right then and there. Later that night, hours after the initial session had ended, I got a slew of messages from Problem Player saying that he was going to end his existence, how everything in his life isn't worth it, and that he ruined my life, so he doesn't deserve to live. I was obviously panicked and asked him what was wrong. He began yapping about how everything he does just isn't good enough for anyone. When I asked him to be more detailed, he explained that he was only venting to me because I led him into thinking it was okay, and I led him on in the DMs, and that's why he was flirty with my character. I tried to explain to him I was just trying to be a good friend, and he was behaving like a maniac. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also have a boyfriend who I was with at the time as well. He knew that. I sent screenshots of this to my DM, and I was told to block Problem Player, which I did, and none of us heard from him again after that. Not sure if this is boring as an ending or not, but it's been 2 years since that happened. I'm still playing in the game in the same group, and I've made the greatest friends I've ever had, so it might have been an interesting ending, but not necessarily a good one. Thank you for your time if you do read this, and have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful day as well. And yeah, that kind of manipulation tactic is freaking shameless. People will often threaten others if they don't get their way, but if they're too weak for that, they will threaten themselves. And in my opinion, it is just as heinous. Look, I don't want anyone to hurt themselves in any way. I don't. But if you use that as a threat, I'm sorry, but my empathy is gone. You can do what you feel, just be ready to finish what you start. This is an adult man putting this kind of weight on the shoulders of a teenager, claiming the teenager led him on, which is just absurd and inappropriate. I referenced Dr. Disrespect earlier, but that was another example of people thinking that this teenager led on Dr. Disrespect. That was actually the teenager's fault. Like, no, dude. It's the adult's fault. You are the adult in this situation. Act like it. God, this kind of behavior is infuriating to me, to say the least. Hey folks, that's a wrap. I did just move, so sorry if things are gonna be a little bit messy with this edit. It's been a lot. In any case, if you guys enjoyed, then please do check out our last episode of Critical Failure, we talked about Artisan Dice and their utterly horrible products and business practices. They are linked up in the cards. But before you go, please leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below, or you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, if you can't think of any stories or you can't think of any comments, you can go down in the comments down below and leave the comment, no need for a fix, to let me know at the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.